appointment as members of the Historical Commission for terms to expire on December 31st, 2011. There are 3 openings. Patricia Romeo, 253 Haverhill Street. Ann M. Sullivan, 471 Park Street. Mabel DeFranza, 25 Bow Street.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. 3 openings, 3 candidates.
I would suggest
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? That take care of all the appointments?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Which that one?
Okay. Sorry, now I'm going to ask the question. Is this a complete summary of all licenses?
All the licenses, yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are
Is there any additions? That's why.
No, there are several licensees, none of which are involved in the service of alcohol, that have, typically we need to chase.
Mm-hmm.
The list is no more lengthy than in years past, but there are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 establishments, primarily common victualler licenses, which are seasonal in nature, and they have not submitted the necessary paperwork. As that paperwork gets submitted to us, we'll bring it before the board for consideration.
So that'll probably happen now in January.
Yes. Or later again, considering the fact that there are 2 ice cream serving establishments on the list.
Yeah, okay. But are there any that potentially will be operating a business after the first?
Yes, there is. There's Bobcat of Boston, which holds a Class 1 license. We did some chasing last year. We finally gave them a deadline that if they didn't submit the application by a certain date, that they would cease to do business in selling them. Certainly hope that it doesn't come to that, but we'll be vigilant in terms of making sure the paperwork gets.
Can we send them a letter and saying effective January 1st they cannot do business without acquiring a license?
We typically give them a slight grace period because I think, in the interest of keeping, sometimes this paperwork gets submitted to corporate offices and gets lost in the cracks. So I would say for the next meeting, we'll bring in those stragglers and bring them before the board for your consideration.
Mr. Bean.
If I may, Mr. Chair. This bothers me. I have a problem with us having to chase businesses and individuals to get them to renew their licenses. I'm not anti-business, that's for sure, but I mean, with our resources that may be stretched thin due to budget constraints, I would rather see us not do this anymore. I mean, it's their responsibility. They know they have to have it done, and I don't think we should be chasing people to do what they should do. That's just my feeling on it.
Okay. Can you get this in some order, Michael?
Yeah, I'll just go by the ones that I got here.
Okay.
You guys can follow along if you can find them.
Well, we'll sign these at the end of our meeting.
Yeah, we got a nice big stack already. Bands and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following common victualler licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. B&D Golf Enterprises Incorporated, the Hillview, Beyond Bagels, Horseshoe Cafe Incorporated, North Reading Christopher Club, Papagino's, Piccadilly Pub, Raphael's Place and Catering, Darlene Bonapane DBA Ristorante Daniela, the Big Dog Sports Grill, and the Thompson Club Incorporated.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion. Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just on the restaurant Danielle, it was interesting note that we received, I don't know if everybody read it, in relation to, this is the one that's going to be demolished, and
Right.
so we're talking about anywhere from May 1st to September 1st, be the demolition and the beginning of construction.
And they're not operating right now.
They're not operating right now, so it's, well, they're willing to pay the fee and ask us to hold the license here at Town Hall until they actually have a building to operate in.
They also have a liquor license.
Well, that,
Oh, this is it.
well, yeah. Well, it's a common victual license.
No, that's right. But there is a liquor one in here.
There's a liquor license also.
Yeah.
And we're limited in the number of licenses that we have.
Mhm.
But I don't have a problem doing this
It doesn't
foresee any
come-
new restaurants over that
I'm
soon.
sorry, what's this thing gonna do?
No, he's just bringing to our
Oh,
attention
yeah,
the fact
the
that
builder's, I
they
understand.
likely will not do any business in
Yeah.
fiscal, in
But
calendar
they've
year
applied for it.
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
But
But they've
they want
applied
to
for it
hold
maybe
the
to
light,
hold it.
well, they want to hold it.
Yeah.
So I think what, we'll see what develops in 2009, and if nothing has happened, then, maybe in 2010, we not issue the
And again, I
license.
have no problem in issuing the licenses and holding it.
Okay?
Hope they construct sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Next.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following common victular slash all alcohol licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. B&D Golf Enterprises Incorporated, the Hillview, Horseshoe Cafe Incorporated, Piccadilly Pub, Darlene Bonapane, DBA Ristorante Daniela, and the Big Dog Sports Grill.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following package store slash all alcohol licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. New England Beverage and Redemption.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following package store slash wine and malt beverage licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Christopher's Market and Tedeschi Food Shops.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? When you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following jukebox licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Loyal Order the Moose and Papagenos.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. You can tell the youth in the organization here, what's a jukebox?
I just think it's funny that those things have to have licenses at all. Ridiculous to me. Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following livery license to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. North Reading Transportation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion?
Yes. Mr. Balakonis, part of the fact meetings, it came up that this business may be heading towards bankruptcy. Are there any issues with taxes owed?
Not that we're aware of, no. Typically, they request, just put in file.
This was driven by the high cost of
High
fuel.
cost of
which has
fuel.
dropped down.
Right.
They've given them
Maybe it
some-
helped them,
Yeah.
gave them a little room, but, I mean, they were on the brink, was my understanding.
Specifically on this business?
Oh, yes. It's the same business that provides transportation for the schools, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so.
School contractor?
Sure.
Yeah, I
They
believe
were
they do.
using, who were they using?
That's what I thought Mel had said.
What?
That's what Mel Webster had said.
They were using somebody else, I thought.
No delinquencies.
Okay.
And also, the accompanying approvals from all other municipal departments, so.
Okay.
Okay, on the motion.
It just as an aside, I mean, they provide great service 4th of July for the town too, and the free transportation, regardless of the fuel cost.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following automatic amusement device licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Loyal Order of the Moose, Papagenos, and the Big Dog Sports Grill.
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Still way to reach into their pockets, I guess. Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following Class 1 licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Brian Dushak, DBA National Sales.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino.
Mr. Chairman,
Comments?
I will be abstaining on the Class 1 and Class 2 licenses in these particular instances, because I have a family member that holds a Class 2 license. Generally, whoever has a Class 1 license can also, which is a new car, they can also sell used cars. So that would be a Class 2. I will be voting on the Class 3, which is a junk license. Junk cars.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 abstention. Mr. O'Leary, make a note of that.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following Class 2 licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Brian Dushak, DBA National Sales.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
401.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following Class 3 licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Brian Dushak, DBA National Sales.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following fraternal club licenses to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Loyal Order of Moose and North Reading Christopher Club.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following club license to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Thompson Club Incorporated.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the following Sunday entertainment license to expire December 31st, 2009, subject to all regulatory department requirements. B&D Golf Enterprises Incorporated, Hillview.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the ABCC 2009 renewal certification.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Belkonis, any comments, or? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Is that it?
That's it.
I noticed Mike's been sneaking in the signatures.
No.
Mr. Belkonis,
Big pile you got there, Mike.
Town Administrator's Report.
Careful with jukebox licenses.
Yeah, right.
If you refer to the
Pockets.
yellow copy that was handed out this evening in your meeting packet, I will go through these fairly quickly, hopefully. The first note is a follow-up from your last meeting. You did approve a bonfire permit for Narissa. You've got a letter that's been included in the packet. Mr. Markall did send this to the board, and he notes that the event, the time has been changed